salty water sound, Chesapeake Bay Blues is what this song's about. What's going on, everybody? We are back for the fourth season of the Crazyhorse Fishing Hour. The Crazyhorse Fishing Hour was formerly named the Crazyhorse Fishing Saloon, but we are in a new format, in a new location, as you can see. Sadly, no more bar that we're shooting from, and we have a new team member. With us for this entire season will be Anastasia St. Cloud. Anastasia was in the Coast Guard, served in the Coast Guard as a boat driver for 14 years. She's also an avid fisherman and fisherwoman and outdoorswoman.
Yes, I am.
So welcome to the show, and thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
We also, for this entire season, are going to be exhibiting Eric Packard's artwork. Eric has been on this show twice so far. He's a great guy, writer for Fish Talk magazine. Dude fishes more than anybody I know. He actually is the one that inspired my saying, which I'm like, I don't say tight lines, I say wet lines, because that guy keeps his line wetter than anyone else I've ever met and always has his line in the water. But I'm going to switch cameras just for a second because I want to kind of show off some of Eric's work. So we're going to use this one, and then this is one of his paintings here. When I first saw it, I thought it was a picture, but it's a seagull. Looks like it's standing in water during low tide. I really think this is awesome. And then the other one is not my favorite fish to target, because I caught so many of them as a child growing up in Georgia, but a largemouth bass. I think it's a beautiful painting. Mm-hmm. I will list information for the comments in both YouTube and Facebook to purchase any of this art. But I can show you guys his card. There's his card there. And so you can get that information. Let me get out of there. Okay. Next on the agenda, as we had last year, we're lucky enough to have the sponsorship of Crazyhorse Fishing Rods. I know that's my nickname. It's their company name as well. There's no relationship other than we're good friends, and I really think that David and Kelly are doing great work building these custom fishing rods. They make beautiful stuff, and they can repair your fishing rods as well. So if you're in the market for a custom fishing rod or have a fishing rod that you think needs rebuilding or rehabbing, reach out to David and Kelly. They do outstanding work. I'm super excited about the season that we have lined up for you guys. As you know, we normally do these shows during the winter, but I had a lot of people reach out to me and say, you should do that all year round. And I really enjoy doing it. I don't know if I'm to the point where I can do it all year round. I don't know. Maybe Anastasia will have more.
Hey, I said the same thing. I told you should be doing it all year round.
Yeah. So we're not quite there yet. So what I am adding is kind of this late July, August season. And then if we add some more people, we may go all the way, through till the winter when I normally start. Mm-hmm. But the lineup is really awesome this year. Tonight we have the guys from Blackwater's Edge, and I'll get to them in a second. 3 really great guys from Blackwater's Edge. Next week we'll be having Lenny Rudo, famous author, also kind of the mastermind behind Fish Talk magazine. which all of us enjoy so much. I'm really excited to have David Sikorsky on the following week. David is the executive director of the CCA. A lot of you guys probably know about the Coastal Conservancy group through the tournaments that they do, the CCA tournaments, which are a lot of fun. But David and his group do so much in terms of conservation, environmental protection, and do so much to protect the waters that we all love so much. After that, good friend of mine, the Baltimore angler, Brandon Manchian. The guy's just got a personality larger than life. And I cannot wait to have him on the show. And to round up the season, Butch Huber from Legion of Anglers will be joining us. Butch is a good friend of both of ours.
He's great.
And the Legion of Anglers is really an up-and-coming snakehead group that's doing a lot of great things, not just on the Eastern Shore, but on the Western Shore as well. So really looking forward to having all of these guests on. But without further ado, let me bring in the Blackwater's Edge guys. Blackwater's Edge is the home of SicaLife.com and SnakeheadLife.com. Their goal is to teach you everything there is to know about Sika deer and snakehead. We might get into a little bit of Sika deer tonight, but we're definitely be talking snakehead. What's up, fellas? What's going on, Kaz?
What's going on, fellas? Hey, and just so everybody knows, look, man, I eat the mustard, you know. I eat the mustard. Look, we're all about having fun and a good time out here, Grant. Look, we want to thank you for having us on here tonight. We appreciate the opportunity to come here and talk with you guys.
Yeah, man, it's great. Gary, Eddie, how you guys doing?
We're doing great.
You're doing fantastic. Thanks for having us on again.
Man, you're so welcome. So what you guys been up to?
Well, you know, I think a lot of people ask us, you know, what exactly is Blackwater's Edge and what exactly are we doing and what exactly are we all about? I think the first and foremost thing is that, you know, we're all about educating people, you know, and trying to raise awareness. You know, our slogan is educating the public, raising awareness, and building a better angler. You know, our biggest thing here at Blackwater is, you know, what we saw here, you know, with snakeheads as things unfold was a little different, I think, than what folks probably saw unfold in the Potomac in the beginning with all the bow guys over there, you know, shooting them and hooking, lining them and doing things like that. And I think as people began to spread out, you know, we began to see the spread of the snakehead start to unfold also, you know, because unfortunately some of these people were moving these fish around, you know, because they didn't want to drive, just like here. They didn't want to drive to the Potomac for 2 hours to go catch a fish. And they all know that, you know, if I can get me a nice pair and I can put them somewhere and nobody knows about them, it's just a matter of a year's time that I'll have an established population, and you know, they will have colonized within that year in that particular tributary system. So, you know, I tell a lot of people, you know, they say to me, you know, is it as bad as you say it is, you know, and the reality of it is, yeah, it is as bad as we say it is here at the Blackwater National Wildlife Refuge, you know, and you know, people are real quick to point at water quality and runoff and sediment control and lots of things like that. But I think that nobody really wants to look at what the true picture is. And it's just the simple fact that we've introduced a fish now that is unlike any characteristic of any other fish that we have colonized within our water systems and in our tributaries and within the Chesapeake Bay. You know, this fish is not reproducing one time. This fish reproduces multiple times per year. And we've seen it as many as 4 times here in 1 year's time. So if you look at the data that we've collected and the things that we've come forth with and we put out publicly so that people can see, you know, real-time data, what we're really seeing and what's going on, you know, to sit back and to simply say that the introduction of snakehead is not going to have an impact is just, there's going to be an impact, whether it's this big or it's that big, you know. So, and that's really, you know, the thing that we've tried to keep, you know, to the most forefront is that no matter what happens, something is going to happen. We know what's happened here, and we don't know where to go from here to try to get back to where we were, if that makes any sense. You know, in other countries and places where these snakeheads colonize and they take over an area, a lot of places will just let them predate amongst themselves, you know, eat everything out of the system, you know, spread disease within them, drain the pond down, poison it, and restock it. You know, the Chesapeake Bay and these tributaries and these reservoirs, you know, that they're being introduced to, they're showing up in Lake Redmond. They're showing up above the PA line now, all up that 83 quarter. I mean, come on, man. I'm not a dummy. I mean, look, it's the 83 quarter. It's not the Susquehanna quarter. You know what I mean? They didn't get there swimming up the 83 quarter. You know what I'm saying? They got up the 83 quarter in somebody's car in a cooler. You know what I mean? So that's the reality of it. And I think that just a lot of people refuse to look at that black and white picture. You know what I mean? We keep thinking, hey, man, this is awesome. Look, I love snakeheads too. I love catching them. I want to catch a big fish too. I mean, and like Eddie said, we love eating them. But, I mean, to think that there's not going to be something that happens is just – that just blows me away that nobody can see it. I mean, you think about it.
They see it.
I mean, like I was saying earlier, you got bass, they reproduce one time a year, and in a year's time, they're only that big. You know what I mean? You talk about snakeheads that are getting 13 and 14 inches and gravid at 9 months. I mean, they're reproducing at 9 months of age. And we've got that scientific, peer-reviewed, and approved data. And that's what I can't understand. Everybody says, was it peer-reviewed? Is it this? Yes. I mean, what don't you understand here? I understand that we may have made some bad decisions in the initial data collecting and maybe some surveying in the beginning, but I think that we all can agree that we have a lot still to learn, but we've also learned a lot of factual things that we've presented forth, backed up with that data behind us. I've certainly not made a statement that I can't back up, when we're talking about it, you talk about survival rate. I mean, you're again, your largemouth bass in a year's time, it's only getting 2 inches, 2.5 inches maybe, you know what I mean? So, that snakehead can eat that first spawn of those bass with no problem. I mean, you look at that picture right there with just that minnow in its mouth, and you think about,
And that's not a big snake.
and that's a small snakehead. You think about, a ball of bass fry that's swimming around, that. Look at the protection system that the snakehead has. I mean, as far as they will fight for them babies. You know what I mean? They're not going to let anything get near them. And
Both parents do.
yeah, and the fish here, they know that once I get bit, it doesn't feel good. First of all, I mean, fish have memory, whether people want to believe it or not. All fish do. So when a bluegill goes into a fry ball to try to get a snack, and he gets bit by that snakehead, and half his tail's ripped off, he's got an infection for a week, and he's barely hanging on to life. He knows better than to go back there and look at that snakehead fry for a meal. You know what I mean? I'm not going to go back there. You bite my foot off to try to get me a chicken out of your yard. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I've tried to look at this through real eyes this whole time. I've tried to look at what I see here.
I didn't know you had fake eyes.
Well, yeah, sometimes I got fake eyes. A lot of us do, But I mean, really, you think about the first place that I caught snakeheads here. I caught 3 the first year. The second year, we caught 50. The third, we caught over 100. The fourth year, me and Cornflower knocked 800 pounds in 4 coolers in like 5 hours of snakeheads from the bank with a fishing rod and a box.
Kaz, what was that first year that you caught them?
The first year that I ever caught a snakehead was 2009, but the first year that they were ever logged here was 2007, and Gary can tell you a little bit about that because that was up by your place in the turtle pot.
Right down the end of my road, right at the end of Dalesville Road or Town Point Road where it meets 343. There's a little ditch there. Tide runs up and down in it. For the most part, it's more rainwater than anything, but a fella had a turtle pot in there and caught an 8-pound one in the turtle pot. That was the first one. It was in the paper and everything. That's
Yeah,
the
first
one
Dorchester
that was
County.
caught in Dorchester County.
And I think the thing about the snakehead, so they've done a lot of scientific, collection, like we said before. And the DNA strain that we see here on the Eastern Shore actually lines up with the Delaware River strain, okay? It doesn't line up with that Potomac River strain. So we actually got 2 different strains of snakeheads, if you want to look at it like that. Just basically an Eastern Shore side and a Western Shore side, you might as well say it like we were talking about before, that whole east, west, whatever. I mean, whatever. Let's all just fish and have fun,
One doesn't eat more than another.
Right. I don't think they eat more up the bay than they do down here. But, I mean, the reality of it is, for here at least, we have watched with our own eyes, and not just us, but it's like the commercial fishermen, like they started coming to me like 4 or 5 years ago, and they're like, so the trappers, like the muskrat guys, over in the Chick and over in, over like Aries Road and all them places, them guys, they muskrat through the winter. And you know, we were finding muskrats. We were starting to find muskrats in the big snakehead stomachs. And I mean, I'm talking, you know,
Good-sized muskrat.
yeah, I mean 2-3 pound, you know, muskrats sitting up in there in that fish's belly. And they're asking us, hey, do you think that this is an issue? I'm like, well, here, let me show you what I got. Boom, 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 boom. I'm showing them my pictures, you know, and they're like, oh, wow, who'd have thought that? So, you know, the scope of the fish goes so much further than just what I see here in the water swimming. You know, that it's you know, the little fish that's this big, that's in a pond that's being created from an overflow of the tide that has become a thriving ecosystem now, that now gets one tide wash with it, with 15 or 20 of these little 8-9 inch snakeheads, you know, coming into that little. There goes the frogs, there goes the tadpoles, there goes all your microorganisms, there goes everything out the door. I don't think that people realize the amount of food that it takes to sustain the snakehead, you know. And Josh Newhart just released a data collection, him and Joe Love did, you know, on how much a colony of 600 snakeheads within a system would need to predate upon to stay thriving. You know, and you look at that number compared to what a bass would need to thrive in that same water. Now, you got to, here again, this is what I don't get with people. You know, you got 2,000 snakeheads in the system and 500 bass. Who's eating more? It's
So,
no
Kaz,
to
can
me.
I ask you a question?
Sure.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So I understand you guys are working with other organizations. How are you guys working to bring awareness to the community about how invasive this species is to the bigger issue at large, the ecosystem?
So yeah, we're one of the main things we're doing is we're actually doing a tournament ourselves. We do 4 tournaments a year to try and promote the harvest of these snakeheads. And actually, our next one is this coming Saturday. But we're also working with Congress, trying to secure funds for snakehead research. We're working with North Bay. Why don't you talk about what we're doing North Bay?
Yeah, so some of the organizations that we work with, you know, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, you know, we help them, you know, with the collection of data, you know, where we thought would be good areas to do surveys, you know, to try to really get real-time data and really see what's going on within a small area at each location. You know, we work with DNR there. I do a lot of the stuff with them on their YouTube, you know, on how to target the fish. I'm available for anything they want me to do for them at any time. You know, if they say, Kaz, we need you in Carroll County tomorrow at 8 o'clock to talk with some kids, I'll be there. You know what I mean? We've had other organizations, you know, here's, I'll tell you what, Grant, I was really, really impressed with your lineup for starting the season out. You know, that was a good lineup you got coming there. Lenny and all them guys, you know, yeah, I mean, Brandon, he is a hell of a guy, you know, but I want to talk a little bit about Dave. You're talking about Dave. So, you know, CCA is one of the organizations that we work with. And, you know, we're helping them with the Great Invasive Chesapeake Challenge, you know, and this is a way to get away from needing money by getting the community involved to help us collect real-time data. So this Great Invasives count, you know, that they're doing, you know, you can catch a flathead, you can catch a blue cat, you can catch a snakehead, you can catch a grass carp, anything invasive, and you can take your picture, you can submit it to CCA, but we go one step forward.
That counts as one entry.
Yeah, that counts as one entry, but now what you can do too is you can gut sample your fish. So that means you can open up the stomach, you can measure whatever it's in the belly, and you can add that with your submission to CCA, and that gives us some even more data without having to appropriate funds from somewhere that we don't even have to begin with.
And it also gives you a second entry for one fish. You get 2 entries if you able to submit the gut content for to win free prizes, and it's free to enter into the Great Chesapeake Invasive Count. It's a great program.
And what's the link for that, Eddie? I mean, yeah, that link, might as well plug it out there.
CCAMD.org/count, and it's free to sign up for that.
Some of the other stuff we've done, you know, we did a program this year with Blackwater. Why don't you talk about that with our first cast program?
Had a little thing going on called First Cast. They do a thing called First Shot, which is for hunting. It's a mentoring program for people who want to learn to hunt that have never hunted before, or maybe hunted once and just not comfortable with it, want to learn. So they did the same thing this year with fishing. And it was called First Cast, and they had it was like 10 or 12 people signed up. It was a minimum 18 years old to enter. And it's surprising how many people had. Several people had. Well, one fellow was from right up around you guys.
Yeah, we had one couple from I believe Salisbury
One
area
from
that
Salisbury.
wanted to learn to fish together.
We had that guy from AstraZeneca that had retired
Yes,
from
he
there. He was
retired
like 65, 70 years old.
He wanted to learn how to fish so he could pass that on to his grandkids during his retirement.
I've never fished before in his life, you know, but he was asking himself, what do I want to do once I retire? You know, how can I get involved with my grandkids? And he saw it on Facebook and said, hey, I'm going to go ahead and check this out. The other cool thing was we had another lady who signed up. She never fished before, and she was a full-time forager, meaning that she, you know, forages from the woods, and she was telling me the stuff she eats. I'm like, oh, wow. I don't know, man. You can't fry, you can't put some sauce on it.
That sounds
I don't
like
know. But yeah, so she wanted to learn to catch snakehead so that she could add to her foraging for the day. That was one more thing she could
we had
eat.
another lady who was part of First Shot and shot her first deer last year, got a turkey this year, and then she got her first snakehead this year.
So Kaz, can you hear me? So are you saying that you're using tournaments to bring awareness and it sounds like building community too and bringing families together?
That's part of it, but I mean, like again, back to North Bay. I mean, that's another organization that I work with up the top of the Chesapeake Bay, and they're a big nonprofit that what they do all year is they bring kids from around the state, a lot of inner city kids and things like that have never fished or been outdoors. They expose them to the outdoors. But like me and Gary, we got to go up. We've been helping them with some programs there with the kids, you know, teaching the kids, showing some slides and some film and some things like that. The awesome thing about North Bay and what they're doing is these inner city kids and these less fortunate kids and kids that have never been out and able to do something like this are introduced to the sport of fishing. They're introduced to the outdoors, and they're introduced ethically to everything. You know, they're taught the right way. You know, they're taught the way to do it. You know, basically the way our parents try to teach us.
Huge impact. I think they have like 10,000 kids a year go through that program.
And we're going to use those kids also to get permits to set fight nets there, and we're going to let the kids actually collect fish from the nets and do gut sampling there. And like these kids that have already been doing it, I mean, this is a way to get a child away from the street corner. This is a way to get a child away from the Xbox. This is a way to get a child. There's nothing wrong with Xbox, no. But I'm just saying.
Kaz, as a you know, someone who has a background in the education field, I was a teacher, and man, I can tell you, there is no better way to get to teach a kid anything or to engage a child than giving them something hands-on like fishing. That's just like gold. I mean, you're almost guaranteed to teach them about fishing and about a lot of other things. You know, there's all sorts of experiential learning that can happen.
Oh, yeah, when we were up there at North Bay, those kids were locked in. I wish I could get my wife to listen that good. It was just amazing. I mean, it wasn't nothing special we were saying, but they were really interested in what we were talking about.
Yeah, I think it's the whole with the snakehead scary factor thing. You know what I mean? I mean, of course, you know that's but they were probably scared of me too.
Hey,
but
Kaz, speaking of inner city, I grew up in inner city, and I caught my first snakehead. What's it? I caught my first snakehead
10 days ago.
10 days ago. It was exhilarating. But, just speaking to that, growing up inner city and having the opportunity to live at the bay and go fishing is just, just amazing. And I heard too that you have an amazing story as well. Like to hear about that. Can you share with us some of this story that you have?
Which story you want me to talk about? I got a bunch of amazing stories. I don't know which one you want to talk about.
You better be more specific.
I think it out, but I mean, a lot of my life is giving back. A lot of my life is trying to pay it forward. A lot of my life is trying to just really help others. I mean, people have it in their mind that we are like these millionaires down here cleaning up on snakeheads and things like that. And that's just not the truth,
Grant knows how much money there is in podcasts.
Yeah.
In January.
Oh, yeah.
January the 13th.
I'm sitting over here in a palace.
Well, I think what you want to know is January the 13th of 2013. I had my last drink, and since that time, I think that. For most of my life, I still live in a fog. I'm not saying that. Eddie and Gary can certainly attest to that. We got so much going, it's hard to keep up. But when I got sober, I asked my sponsor. I said, "Hey, how am I going to stay sober?" And he said, "You're going to help other people." I said, but I don't have anything to give to anybody. He said, don't worry, you will. And I remember I was sober about maybe 3 months. And he walked up to me and he says, hey, man. He says, did you talk to that guy over there in the meeting tonight, that new guy? I said, I ain't talked to him. He goes, why don't you go over there and talk to him? I said, I ain't got nothing to offer him. He said, you got 3 months to offer him. He ain't got 24 hours. You got a lot to offer him. That's 90 more days of offering to him that you got. Now get your ass over there and go talk to that guy. And let me tell you what, I learned that day something. We all have problems. We all stress out. We all worry about things. You know the easiest way to stop worrying about life? Go help somebody. When you go and you help somebody, you forget about everything you got going in your head. You know, and now you're focused on somebody else. And what that does, it removes you from the horrible place that you may be in your mind and takes you to a better place. And after you've helped that person, no matter how it is, and you walk away and you feel better about yourself. I think to be successful in life, you have to feel good about you. You know, if you don't feel good about you, you can't feel good, and nobody else is going to feel good from you. You know, if you've got the vibe of goodness going on, people are going to feel good around you. If you got the vibe of bullshit going on and negativity, ain't nobody going to want to be around you, you know, and that's just kind of how we are, you know. So I don't know. I mean, for me, success has come from helping others, you know, and that's just the bottom line. You know, if somebody calls me and wants to know about a snakehead spot, look, I don't have a protected snakehead spot. You know, I don't have a place that I'm, you know, guarding myself, you know. So I'm very apt to give you my favorite snakehead spot to go fishing. You know, I want to see you be as successful as I am. You know, I'm not that guy that's going to make a video and then you reach out to me and I'll tell you go pack sand. You know, the whole I'm not burning this or go find your own spot. Let me tell you, I've told this story hundreds of times to people. You know, I was probably 12 years old, 13 years old, somewhere in there. And I remember we had moved to a new house and there was a stream behind us. And I walked down the road because I wanted to go back and see where we were living and what was in this river. I'd never seen a river earlier because I was like you. I wasn't in the country. I was in a townhouse, you know, street corner kid, you know. So, you know, I remember I walked back there, I leaned over and I looked and I saw these giant fish and I didn't know what they were. But this man come walking out, he had these bass on the stringer. I mean, they were giant, you know. And I said to him, I said, man, those are some big bass. I've never caught one. Let me tell you what. I said, where did you catch it? And this is what the man said to me. He didn't tell me go pack sand and go home, kid. He didn't delete my friendship and block me so I could never talk to him again. You know, he grabbed me by my hand and he walked me back there with his fishing pole and a rubber worm. And I'll never forget it. You know, he cast it right out in front of me, and I watched the worm as it fell, and I watched this big bass come out from under the root and eat my worm and take off, and I hear him yell, set the hook. And I set the hook, and next thing you know, there I am with my first big bass ever in my life, and I got to tell you, that was the day that I got hooked on bass fishing, straight up. You know, I wanted to catch bass every day after that, and I wanted to catch a bigger one than the one I caught the day before. It's just like any other kind of fishing, you know. You always want to try to be better at what you're doing, and I'm kind of like that with snakehead fishing. You know, I want to be better snakehead fishing, you know, than I was yesterday. And the only way to get better is to stay consistent and keep going. You know, people ask me all the time, hey, Cash, should I drive down tomorrow? The snakehead's biting. Look, I'm not going to answer the question. This time I'm going to answer it. You don't know if you don't go. You know, you learn by going. You don't learn by me telling you, hey, it's hot, come on down here now. I want you to struggle as much as you are successful so that you learn the balance of the whole fishing thing. I don't want you to think every time you go fishing, you're going to catch 100 fish. That's not how it works, you know. We wish it would, but that's not how it is. I mean, you know, Gary does a lot of guiding, and it's been kind of tough this year. You know, the water's been hot. I mean, it ain't been the best so far. But now we're starting to see numbers. We're now starting to see lots of fish. And, you know, Gary had a good point. You know, we were kind of wondering in the spring, you know, about where were all the fish at? You know, why aren't these fish out in the wide open with the fry balls like they've been the last 2-3 years? Well, when something like that's presented to you, you know, you kind of come up with a hypothesis and you need to find the conclusion, you know. So, you know, me and Gary and Eddie, you know, we're all talking and really what we saw this spring was there was not much in the way of food or forage for the snakeheads like there's been in the past years. Like this year, we really saw the dent in the panfish, the dent in all the other fish. You know, we've watched our carp numbers explode like we've never seen before. And I'm talking like, I don't even know how to explain it, but I can tell you right now, I'm seeing 5 times the amount of carp in a little
They're
time
everywhere.
I ever saw. And that's
Yeah.
because when you think, and this is what I got to tell people, you look at the circle in the river system, most of your fish are fueled on carp and shad fry. That's what's fueling your bass, your panfish, everything around there, your catfish, everything. So if you remove those panfish and you remove those bass out of the equation, it does nothing but give the carp and the shad room to multiply as much as they want because nothing's predating on them, So, we think that a lot of food has been removed as a resource here, so that's probably why we're not seeing so many fish out in the open areas, and they're back in these backwaters now because there's no food to find out here. So now they're looking in other places. And what we're seeing now, and in the last 3 weeks, I have never in my life seen hundreds of fry balls in a ditch. That's what you're seeing this year. Now, it's a twofold thing. You think about the snakeheads being out in the open with their fry balls the last 2-3 years. Birds are picking them off. These fish have great memory. I've done my own research on color memory. They have memory for 3 months on color, So these fish remember stuff. So I believe they remember that, hey, if I have my babies out here, I'm going to be in trouble. Let's go find a better place to have them. And the only reason I say that is I've watched these fish just totally metamorphosize since they've been here. The first year they didn't bite in the winter. Second year they didn't bite in the winter. Third year you never saw them in the winter. The fourth year I was standing on New Bridge and I'm watching a ball of shad come under the bridge right under me. I mean, I can see them on the surface, gizzard shad, 4 to 5 inches. And on the outside of that, I thought they were carp or maybe even rockfish that were swimming on the outside. And then out of nowhere, they just ripped through the whole ball like a pod of dolphins would out in the ocean. And what it was snakeheads that had corralled these shad into a bowl and then ate them and literally broke apart and brought them back together again. I was able to catch them on a Swimbait. So I knew what they were. And then I went to Jim Thompson. I said, hey, man, I was fishing today and there was ice on the edge. The water was 36 degrees out in the middle, man. And these things were hitting my Swimbait like a freight train, brother. And he didn't believe me. So he came down, we showed him that, As we've gone on here in the last several years, I mean, both Eddie and Gary can tell you that these fish have adapted to salt. In the beginning, we would take these fish and we would put them in the salinity, the equivalent of the target ships out in the bay. And the fish would get weak. They'd lose color. They would stress out. You could see that they were having a problem. Anybody that found them down the Honga River, anywhere down that way, they were always dead or they were discolored and they were netting them on the surface because they couldn't swim. I think the fish have learned that if I get to go up air and stop using the water, I can make it a little further if I want to go, So I think that's why you're seeing these fish get caught at the Bay Bridge. We got guys here that are shooting them under the rays out in a little Chop Tank River. I think that they're following these rays because the rays are getting in the grass and they're rooting and it gives them something to eat. I'm trying to put the whole puzzle together, which is something that nobody else out here is doing. Guys are out making videos, but nobody's trying to really figure it out.
I think I look at the bay. I mean, the bay is literally 300 yards that way for us, and there's so many little creeks that are so skinny. They're like 4 or 5 inches of water. The only thing that lives there is mud minnows, and I'm like,
Snakehead.
I think Snakehead could be perfect for some of these areas.
That's where they are this year.
Yep, that's exactly what.
That's where they are. They're not out in the river.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing.
I found them. They're up in the
they can
very
thrive.
far end.
They don't need oxygen in the water to live. Just like you said. I mean, in a little puddle like that somewhere. I mean, that would be the perfect place for them to be. It'd be the perfect opportunity for them, the perfect habitat for them to go to. A lot of guys over there, on the other side are seeing a lot of fish in, a lot of new places they didn't see them before, the Severn, the Magathie, So I don't know, man. I mean, they can move anywhere they want, and unfortunately, what you just said is right. Like they can have their babies and they can go to an area where the water's 110 degrees. There's no predator there. There's nothing else in the water. There's no minnows or anything. So it's a perfect place for them to go, take their babies, get away from everything. They know they don't have a turtle there to eat them. They don't got a frog there to eat them. They don't got a crayfish there to eat them. They might have a minnow there, like you're saying, but not much can make it in that water. So in stagnant areas and places like that you didn't see fish, places like that may be a great addition to some place like that. You know what I mean? I mean, here's the thing. I won't put this out there. A lot of guys think I'm just this kill, murder guy. And really, that's not it. you're not wrong for feeling or having the point of view that you have as an individual. That's one thing I learned through recovery was live and let live. Mind my business. It didn't matter what so-and-so thought. It doesn't matter what so-and-so thought. What's most important is what I think. You know, when I lay my head down at night, it's what I think. It's not what everybody else thought today and everybody else yelled and screamed at me and called me names or whatever. It's what I think when I lay down. Did I do a good job today? Did I offend somebody? Did I need to go back and say, hey, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. This is something I can tell you right now. You will not find me trolling on one release, picture, video, anywhere. Not one time will you ever find it on Facebook. And I tell them, go find it. Go find one post where I've come at you, I've trolled you, I've done that one time to you. You can't find it. You will find me defending myself, absolutely. You know, I'm not going to let you walk on me. I'm going to come back to you with the data I got, and I'm going to fire it right at you. You know what I mean? But, I mean, the bottom line is this, you know, if you want to keep them, that's fine. If you don't want to keep them, that's fine too. You know, somebody else will catch that fish. That's why I don't care if you put it back, because there's enough people out here looking to catch the fish that somebody's eventually going to catch it. You know what I mean? Maybe one day or get the net, one of the two. So, you know, I've tried not to be that hateful guy, you know. If you want to let him go, let him go. I don't care. You know what I mean? Hey, if you let a 10-pounder go and I know where you were, let me tell you what, buddy, I'll be there next day and I'll be trying to find that sucker. I can tell you that. That's the challenge and that's the game to me. You know, it's not let me hurt your feelings, let me badmouth you, let me put you down. You know, my whole thing is building people up. You know, I want you to be a successful angler. I want you to catch snakeheads, you know. Eddie wants you to come in the store and leave with a smile on your face, you know. Gary wants you to go home, you know, after staying at his place, you know, overnight and going fishing the next day with him. You know, he wants you to go home with a smile on your face. There's no ill intentions here with us at all. And I think that's the biggest misconception to people. I think that people think that we just want to euthanize snakeheads, and no, that's not it. We simply want to educate the public. We want people to see what we saw here. We want people to be open-minded, of course. You know, I'm very open-minded. When a guy tells me in New Jersey, hey, man, I don't have a problem, I'm not there. I'm not there to see that you don't have a problem. You know better than me what your fishery is, you know? And unfortunately for me, it's a twofold thing because I'm here on the Eastern Shore, but I grew up on the Bush River on Otter Creek. You know, I grew up fishing the Upper Bay bass tournaments. I grew up fishing, you know, the Maryland Bass Federation and all that stuff, you know, in the clubs and doing that thing. So, you know, for me, it's kind of a double-edged sword because I've got a relationship to both places, you know, and it really behooves me to see what's unfolding in the Upper Bay there, especially with the Aberdeen Proving Ground. You know, the Aberdeen Proving Ground has thousands of acres, tens of thousands of off-limit waters back there that we can never fish. So basically all they're doing is providing the Bush River, Swan Creek, the Gunpowder with a nursery for snakeheads. I mean, that's really, really what it is.
It's no different than Blackwater. Blackwater has thousands of acres you can't fish on. You know, and that's the thing. If you don't fish where you can, then you got a real problem. You know, the thing is for me, Grant, is I grew up fishing the Blackwater River. I've been fishing this, I'm 66, and I've been fishing it since I was 14. Actually, longer, probably since I was 4 or 5, but in a boat since I was about 14. And I've seen the changes. You know, I saw when Hurricane David came through and cut the top end of the Blackwater out to the little chop tank, and the saltwater came in, killed all the lily pads in there, and all the pickerel left. I remember when that happened. But it's always been a place you could go back and catch 25, 30 bass most any day. And in the last 5 years, if you catch a bass now, I caught several different times this year, but they're 3 to 5 pounds. No little ones at all. And it's just totally changed in the amount of people that come back there. All the people that I've taken fishing, I've had some really good days, but I've always had more comments on the beauty of the river than anything else. It's just, I don't know if you've ever been back there, but it's a fantastic place. I'd be glad to take you down there sometime if you want to go. It's unique. It's like almost like the Everglades going back there.
It's like something you never seen.
Gary, I would take you up on that.
And
Just to pick your ear, somebody who's been on a body of water that long. That
it's
would
just
be
crazy. I mean, so many changes. You need to go back there, and there's stump fields everywhere where there's just dead trees sticking up out of the water a couple feet. When I was in high school, they were all trees. That's how much it's changed. You know, the whole place. There's a footbridge that goes across the river about 4 miles back. You couldn't go past there without a canoe or something because it was so many lily pads, and there's none now. You got another 4 miles of river before it hits the chop tank, and there's no lily pads at all.
I wanted to ask you guys and sort of switch gears a little bit because, first of all, for all of your involvement in the Wolford store, I think that's just such a great beacon of bringing this snakehead movement, I guess you want to call it, or mass execution, whichever we're calling it. But the Wolford source is just a great source for people to get information and tackle. But talking about tackle, like when I first heard about snakehead fishing, probably 5 or 6 years ago, even then people were mostly using just what you'd use for largemouth bass, and I've seen a huge evolution on snakehead tackle to where there's a lot of guys making it now, and they're making it specifically for snakehead. And this really question is for any of you, because I know you all have seen the evolution of the tackle for snakehead. But tell me about that, and why it sort of made some of the changes that it has, and where you see it going.
Well, yeah, I mean, anybody who's caught a snakehead can tell you why it's going the way it is. You really need a much heavier duty lure to catch a snakehead than a regular bass lure. So the evolution I've seen is the equipment that's needed to catch a snakehead is basically musky grade equipment, but you're trying to present it in the same way as bass fishing, and it's a tricky line to walk there. You've got to have that real heavy wire. You got a heavy duty hook, but you got to have
a smaller lure.
Yeah, exactly. I was just gonna say you got to have it light enough to still stay on top of the water, and that's the trick that everybody's trying to find right now.
I think that the question you just asked, because a lot of people ask me this question all the time, Kaz, what is the value of the snakehead? Like they ask me, to me, what do I see the value of? Everything has value, whether it's good value or bad value. I tell people, it's like going to Walmart and getting 10 pairs of socks for $1. You just made the best choice in the world. Other times it's like going to, I don't know, the Foot Locker and getting $200 Air Jordans that you really couldn't afford. It wasn't the best decision in the world. You know what I mean? So, but I don't know. I mean, the value here is that it has given anglers a new market. It's given anglers an opportunity to showcase themselves in products that they may have already been doing, like rod building and chatterbaits and, I don't know, the jig and pig. The jig and pig has pretty much evolutionized everything to that chatterbait. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's a bait that really gets overlooked a lot is a jig and pig. I hate to say it because they just love crawfish, I can't tell you how many fish I've caught on either a red jig and pig or a white jig and pig. I mean, I'm not kidding you. But again, it's back to the strength of the product. It's about the quality of the product. You just can't throw some 0.5 gauge crap out there and expect to get a 15-pound snakehead in, So,
and it's what you're fishing for too.
Exactly.
I mean, if you want to catch snakeheads, don't pull with lures. Just go get some minnows.
Yeah.
If you want to catch a 15-pound snakehead, you got to use lures. And you don't have to, but your success rate is going to be better. It's like for me, buzzbait, I use a lot because it's cool. When they slam a buzzbait, they slam it.
It's fun to see.
But my favorite thing is to use a frog. And frog, you've got about a 50% chance of catching one. But it's like turkey hunting. When you can take that turkey and you can call him in and you make him think that little that you're doing is another turkey and he comes in within 10 yards. When you can fool that fish into thinking a plastic frog is for real and make him hold on to it for 30 seconds till he's just about ready to swallow it and hook him, that's pretty cool.
And I mean, you should know too. I mean, with the whole Crazyhorse custom rods thing that you're doing, I mean, you just can't use.
I'm not doing it.
or not that you're doing, but the whole Crazyhorse rod guide sponsoring your podcast. I'm just saying,
right.
He's not selling flimsy ass rods out there for snakeheads. He's building quality stuff with good guides and things like that. And a lot of people ask me, do you really need that big money product? So, for me, it's been a Penn Fierce reel. It's been an Ugly Stick GX2 rod. It's been very simple, and a lot of people laugh at me because I use 10-pound fluorocarbon.
I would say don't ask Cornflower if you need.
I'll say Cornflower's probably fished 250 rods in the last year. He's probably got about $250 in them. He buys the absolute cheapest thing that he can buy.
I was gonna say that Penn Fierce and that Ugly Stick that you said, that's nice gear for a lot of people. I mean, that's $100 rig,
Yeah.
That Penn Fierce is going to run you $50, and the Ugly Stick's going to run you probably another $50.
Well, that's right. That's what I tell people. I tell people all the time, Grant, you know, the guys are crying, oh man, that frog was $7. I said, go buy an umbrella for rock fishing. That's $100.
Yeah.
You know, what's a $7 frog?
Well, what are you going to pay?
That's kind of how I look at it.
You're going to go pay $8 a pound to buy the snakehead. So you got a 4-pound fish. That's $32. You go to the market up in town and buy it.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you're buying 2 $14 frogs and you get 7 fish, I think you just made out like a bandit where I'm from.
It's like anything. It's on how much money you want to spend.
Yep.
You know,
It's you don't need to spend the money on the expensive equipment,
Yeah.
but it gives you a nicer experience. So that's
Right.
I mean,
World record guy didn't even have a rod.
yeah, that's right, exactly. But I mean, you spend money on a good rod that's light and you can cast further and it doesn't wear you down as much. That's nice.
We were filming with Outdoors Del Mar with Andrew Talls, and I'll tell you about expensive rods. You know, I wanted to bring my expensive rods and show them off, and I got this new dog this year from Kuwait that just likes to eat everything, and I'd set my rods in the car to go walk and talk to everybody, and realizing I'd been there more than 2 minutes, I was like, oh man, I gotta go check on my dog. It probably ate my rods. I opened the door up, and sure enough, man, I had one rod in there that I had really, you know, you only got that one rod. And damn it if she didn't get that one rod, you know, and it was my $400 and some rod, you know.
It didn't matter. He didn't catch anything that day. Anyway.
I know I did. I caught 3 catfish.
That's a catfish. Yeah.
I got catfish, yeah. I never so.
Well, I wanted to commend you guys again on the Wolford's tour. I've seen the selection and the quality of tackle there really go way up, and it's all very tailored to the snakehead fisherman. But,
Well, it's kind of like this. Eddie wanted to know parts of snakeheads. I want to know parts of a podcast. So I talked him to get in the snakehead market, you know, 5 years ago, and then
right.
he finally talked me into doing a podcast. So I think we all kind of like offset each other, you know.
But you know, the interesting thing about lures and stuff that you're talking about is the local fishermen actually started making the snakehead lures before the manufacturers really got into it. There's a lot of local guys that make all different kinds of tackle now. It's some really good stuff.
Yeah. Well, hey, Kaz, aside from lures and fishing rods, so I'm new at angler, and I enjoy kayak fishing, but I also enjoy being on the boat. So which one do you enjoy?
So this is the question I get all the time. So probably 97% of my fishing is spot hopping. So guys here, you know, you could see me right now at the Chickamauga, and then in 20 minutes see me in Crapo. You know, this is how I fish. So I got a lot of slogans I'll come up with over the time snakehead fishing, and one of them is, when we eat, we all eat. You know, I've noticed that, you know, when snakeheads are not pairing, they're not spawning, they're not doing all that, when one eats in an area, they all seem to turn on, like, I'm going to miss it if I don't eat it now, you know? So what I'll do a lot of times is, like, I may go to, like, Maple Dam, and I may hit the first cut and take a look, and I'll get out of my car and I just watch. I don't even have a fishing pole or nothing. I'm looking for a couple of things. I'm looking for a gulp of air. I'm looking for some minnows to scatter along the bank. I'm looking for a swirl, or just a slight boil that you can barely see under the water, or that one little pin drop that hits the water where it might have just been that one little tiny minute flicking. And if I don't see any of that, I'm gone. I'm not waiting. I'm not wasting my time. If I see what I'm looking for, then I'm going to go get a rod. I'll make a couple casts. If I don't have a bite, Kevin at Bass Rack
You
will tell
couldn't
you
take
this.
him on the boat.
You know, yeah, I wouldn't make it on, but I'd be on the bank running while you're in your boat, you know. So you know, Kevin will tell you, you know, like, we'll hit a spot, and if it looks good, we make 5-10 casts. Kevin, get in the car, let's go. Then I'm like, dude, we just got it. I don't care. Get in the car, we're leaving. Let's go. You know, and I'll do that 5 or 10 times, and somebody's starting to get frustrated. Like, man, I don't even want to fish with you anymore, dude. Like, we're not even catching any fish.
I wish he was joking.
I'm not even here 10 minutes and we're moving. I just like the spot. I was just starting to get comfortable. But then when we get to that 7th spot, and it's every other cast, you're either blown up, you're either blown bubbles on, or you're hooked up, or you're throwing the fish, and you're there for 25, 30 minutes, just as fast as you can fire, you know, trying to get them. You know, so that's kind of like how I do. If I was in a boat in Blackwater, I would need a 1,000 horsepower fan boat that would fly and not ride on the water, so I could hop branch to branch. No.
See, but what he's not telling you is the times when we'll leave a spot, we'll go to another spot, and 10 minutes later he'll get a text message from somebody at the old spot where they're blowing up the fish.
The cool thing is we all talk to one another here. That's like you talked about the community. I mean, we've got a real good core of fellas here. I mean, all different walks. Release guys, kill guys, lure builders, rod builders, bait trappers. I mean, we have really tried to do our best to bring the community together, not keep it so separated. But to answer your question, I was going to make a page called No Boat Needed on Facebook, and it would just be a shoreline fishing spot, because it's gotten to that place where I don't take the boat anymore. I don't need to. I know I've got 10 or 15 spots that I just boom, 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 boom. And if I'm really wanting something to eat, I'm going to find it eventually. Might only be 2 or 3, or it might be 50 or 60. You don't know if you don't go, so.
When I first went to Blackwater, first time I was over there, I think I went on like 335, and I went way off the bridge, and I was like,
yeah.
The Snakehead have to be here. And it caught nothing, because I think that's what most people do when they come from over here the first time. They just think we're going to bend a rod on every cast. But I was noticing guys driving around in pickup trucks with rod holders, filling rods all in the rod holders. And I was like, where's the kayak? What are they doing? And then I went to a gas station. Oh, you guys might know it. It's like a small little, red and blue white gas station over by that marina on Maple Dam. And
Goose Creek.
Yeah. And I went in there, and there's this, older lady, and she was like, I'll tell you how to catch a fish head. You go into them culverts and you catch one. And I was like, she doesn't know what she's talking about. A fish head. She doesn't even know how to say the thing. And before I left that weekend, I saw so many guys catching fish out of ditches on the side of the road. And I was like, why am I going, paddling 20 minutes the kayak guys never win you guys' tournaments, do they?
It's rare. They put up a good showing, but normally the guys bank fishing are the ones who really dial it in.
Yeah, at our last tournament, the young fellow, Willie, he was bank fishing. He caught the 2 biggest fish. So.
Wow.
Yeah, my thing, so like when I first realized that these things this is the craziest thing. Gary talks about it all the time. In the middle of the woods, somewhere in Blackwater where we're hunting, you got a giant tree that's fallen over, and the root balls came up out of the bottom, and now you've got this 8-foot diameter by 2-foot hole there that's filled with water. And you know what? There's 3 or 4 snakeheads swimming in.
First time you get a high tide, those little ones get in there and they stay there till you get another high tide.
If I could tell you how many root balls I've caught a snakehead out of, it would kill you. I ain't kidding. You think about a ditch and then you think, is he being serious about it?
When I'm going down the river, if it's a new tree that's falling over, I'm on it. I went to one last week, and it's fairly new. It fell down about a month ago, and there were 2 fry balls in there. Somebody already got the fish, but the fry balls were still there.
I tell you, the biggest thing here, like for us, sometimes we don't even need a fishing pole. The water floods across the road, and you got Chris Dixon. I call him Poseidon. He's out there with the gig, just gigging everything in the road. We're running down in our waders. I mean, there's been days where you've got a pickup truck jacked up with 4 or 5 of us in the back with bows, spears. We're riding down the road, just spearing them with a rope, pulling them back in the truck. Go, going down there. Go. There's lots of, we're straight up rednecks when it comes to some of the stuff we do,
So I heard this one time, and now I'm a firm believer of it. And I want to see if you guys can back me up on this or tell me why or what the science is behind it. But if I'm on the water, particularly in Blackwater, and carp start jumping, that's usually like a sign for me to just call it a day.
100%.
Why?
They don't cohabitate for whatever reason. That for one thing, the snakeheads don't seem to enjoy eating them.
Right.
And there's a canal that was dug down on a property that I hunt on, and that canal it's about 30 feet wide and about 6-8 inches deep. And on the incoming tide, after low tide, the carp come in there until flood tide. As soon as the tide starts to go back out, the carp leave and the snakeheads come in. And time again, we have seen that. Don't know why. Just but they're telling you if you see the carp, you just want to move on.
Yeah, I think the thing that I've seen is how much the carp muddy up the water, and so I mean snakehead already don't have good eyes. We all know that they don't have good eyes, and so when the water gets even more muddy, I think they just get out of town. They don't want any parts of it.
I agree. You look at the snakehead's eyes, the way they're positioned. You know, it's kind of like crappie. You know, they're kind of looking up. You know, and you know, Eddie just hit that on the head. You know, when that water gets muddy, when it you know, that carp love that mud busting through their gills. You know, other fish, you know, bass and things like that, it stresses them out. That mud flowing through them gills, it cakes up in there. You know what I mean? They don't have the resource like a carp does to filter that through their gills. So, like Eddie said, they'll get out of there. They'll go somewhere else. I do know this, that you know, the carp and the shad, they don't seem to eat a lot of it. They eat some of it, but they don't seem. It seems like they want to eat more yellow perch. They want to eat more bluegill. They want to eat more white perch. Our residential white perch population is gone. We don't have a resident white perch population anymore. You used to be able right now to go over to 335 and throw a bobber and a minnow and catch 12, 13-inch white perch all summer long.
I can't tell you last time.
Because we had such a big pod of resident white perch here. You know, you look at Linkwood, the pond up there at Linkwood, okay? That pond was full of white perch. They're gone. They're gone. It was one of the only freshwater ponds here that I knew of that had such a successful white perch reproducing stock in that lake, you know? But yeah, like if you look at a lot of the gut shots that I have, I would probably say most of them are probably yellow perch, crappie, and bluegill, you know, and then followed by bass, you know, and then here's another thing, catfish and eels. I mean, so I think I sent you a picture of my cousin Ricky holding a big one up. He was in a white t-shirt. That fish had a 24-inch channel cat in its gut. The head was about decomposed, but we cut it all the way out, and we pulled it out, and we laid it down there. Imagine 24 inches, and the fish was only 30. You know, we've had fish here recently that got eels in their stomach that are 3 foot long, and the fish is only 28 inches.
I think that's the biggest thing we've seen with snakeheads. They're not afraid of eating their own weight, almost their own weight.
Oh, they'll choke themselves.
Yeah, they really. When a tournament in 2019 we had, Alex shot one with a bow.
Yeah.
It was a 26 or 28-inch snakehead, and it had an 18-inch snakehead in its belly. And I mean, not even all the way in. It was halfway in and halfway out.
And everybody thought that he had staged it in the tournament, you know, stuck the fish in its mouth, you know, and did all that. But when we had the DNR biologist on site, we had him remove the fish from the snakehead, and you could see that the whole entire front of the body was already decomposing in the stomach. It was what was still hanging out that hadn't got into the stomach yet that wasn't decomposing. So we laid that fish down, took a picture to show people that, you know, how greedy they are and how much they will feed. You know, like I caught a snakehead last week with a number 5 meps, and I think it was only like 8 inches long. You know, I've told people, you know, I've had musky lures, you know, 14-inch double prop, you know, big hair musky lures with 3 treble hooks on it, and a 8-inch snakehead try to eat my musky lure that's bigger than it is. You know, so you know, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say, but I know for sure here that, you know, as far as the predation goes and what we're seeing and eat, like the catfish, you know, the white perch were gone, and then we saw the stomach starting to be full of brown bullheads, you know, so they're eating now the brown bullhead catfish, and they love them. I hate to say it, but they love them. And you think about how can a snakehead really crunch down on those fins like that? You know, you would think it would tear them open. Now, we have had people too where we've had them call us, and the snakehead has ate a catfish, and that fin has poked out so far that it's out the side of the fish. You know, so I don't know how they recover from that, but they do. These fish are so hardy, it's not even funny. You think about, you know, we had last night on our show, you know, Andrew Fox, you know, and we were talking about the bow guys and shooting, and, you know, when they find another one that's been shot clear through it, you know, how does it heal and how does it survive and how does it keep going? You know, we got guys that come here, they'll message me like, hey, man, I beat my snakehead in the head 14,000 times. I just got home, that thing's flopping all over the place like it's alive.
I had one time where I was filleting the fish, spinal cord was severed, both fillets off the fish, and the mouth is just, I mean, he's still snapping at you. I mean, honest to God, it was the wildest thing.
I don't know if you can see
like the Evil Dead.
Oh, yeah, there it is,
exactly.
right there. You
Yeah,
can
exactly
see that.
right.
There's that fish right there.
That was fish that was shot with a bow, and had the other one 2/3 the way down in it. Swimming along.
But the part of the snakehead that was actually in the other snakehead was already decomposed.
I think the biggest thing, like especially like me and Gary, because we fish a lot of the same places, hunt some of the same places, you know. Our one particular place that we fish a lot, you know, we don't have any more frogs left. We don't have any more crayfish left. We don't have any more at all. And when I say we don't have any more at all, I mean we don't have any more at all. I had DNR come down here. They walked off the pier. They didn't make it 50 yards and came back with a half of a 5-gallon bucket filled with little 8 to 10 inch snakeheads, you know, that are just out there at night laying on the bottom. You know, so I myself, I could get 60 pounds of crayfish on a weekend to sell at my crab stand. I haven't caught one crayfish, and I'm not one crayfish in 3 years on our place. And that's no lie. That's God's honest truth. Where we fish at, you could be there in the evening time. You couldn't talk to one another without being next to each other because it was so ear piercing from the frogs, you know. And I'm not talking about tree frogs. I'm talking about water frogs. That's what's been hurt, you know. Bullfrogs, the green frogs, the
little leopard frogs.
Leopard frogs just go around, not like they were. The tree frogs, you hear plenty of them because they're not in the water. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that's where we kind of have, I don't know what the word is that I'm looking for, but that's why we have the alarms that go off within us like we do. You know, I mean, we're certainly not making things up about what's happened here. You know, when you're talking to the commercial fisherman that has netted Blackwater for 30 years and an average week of panfish was 300 to 400 pounds, and as soon as snakeheads were introduced, within 5 years, not even getting 40 pounds a week. It's right there in front of you. How can you say, oh, snakeheads didn't do that? Something else did it. Lightning did it. Hurricane did it. Tornado did it. SpongeBob did it. You know, I mean, I don't know.
Well, I know that the Wolfer store hosts a lot of tournaments. So tell us about what you got upcoming and how people can get involved in the tournaments.
So yeah, we our next tournament's actually this coming Saturday. You can sign up until Friday at midnight on the Fishing Chaos app. It's the Snakehead Summer Slam. It's $50 to enter, and there's optional Calcuttas that are $10 each. Heaviest of the tournament, longest of the tournament, most harvested, and there's also a Calcutta for the heaviest of the year, which the leader right now is at 7.75 pounds, and that's Matt Fletcher with that. But yeah, like I said, and we got one more tournament after this, September 18th, I think it is. And
then we've got some other people that we're working on tournaments with also. Scott Sewell, we've got that August 14th up the top of the bay. There's going to be 2 divisions there, a kayak division, a boating division. Roy Boyd, I believe, is going to run the kayak division. I believe Scott's going to run the boat side. Boats are going to go to Flying Point Marine. I believe the kayaks are going out of Dundee, if I remember correctly. And then we're going to be working on a tournament with the town of Port Deposit directly to put together a tournament up there at the end of September. So everybody can have that to look forward to. That's a little sneak peek. We probably weren't supposed to say much about that, but hey, now the door is open. Let's talk about it. We've got our club, Snakehead Life Fishing Club. You know, you can join that. You know, it's all about snakeheads. You know, so it's a community that we're creating where, you know, we're doing fun things within the group, like outings within the group. You know, charter trips, taking road trips to different places to go fishing, putting together family nights to take your families out. You know, kids are allowed in the club free as long as you have a paid. Yeah, as long as you have a paid parent. Our tournaments too. Eddie didn't mention this, and I want to mention this. Our kids division is 100% free. So we would love to see 2,000 kids here Saturday for free weighing in fish. You know what I'm saying?
I got a 5-year-old to be down.
3,000. No. But you know, I mean, so that's the thing. I mean, it's we're not millionaires here. We're not capitalizing on snakeheads. I will say this, you know, Dorchester County, because of all the work that we've done, not just us, but I would figuratively have to say that most of that marketing has been through us with snakeheads here in Dorchester County to begin with. And you look at the economic impact that we've had here in Dorchester County, there's your value. You know, we were talking about where is the value in the snakehead. The value is the economic impact. So we can choose to look at this with a positive eye. We can choose to look at it with a negative eye. You know, we're trying to stay focused on where we're going from here and being positive, you know. So, I mean, that's the thing, you know, we're not millionaires. A lot of this stuff we're doing, we're not getting paid for. We're just doing it because we simply enjoy doing it. I mean, that's really the God's honest truth.
So Blackwater's Edge, but as we kind of reach our last few minutes, Blackwater's Edge. How can people learn more about that?
So you can go to blackwateredge.com, and we've got links there to the podcast, to all the tournaments, to the Snakehead Light Fishing Club. Go to blackwateredge.com, or you can check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/blackwateredge.
One more thing before I forget about, we found value in bait. We started a group here called the Bait Boys here on the Eastern Shore. Me, Damien, and Cornflower, and it's all about marketing here. So we started thinking about how we could build this bait business, and we came up with the name Snakehead Destroyer. That's what we were going to call our minnows, was Snakehead Destroyers, and we put them in. The Anglers was the first place we really kind of put them in, and they want to know, could they use the name? And they said, yeah, if you're going to buy our bait, you can use the name. So the name Snakehead Destroyers really kicked off with our live bait stuff. The other thing too is, we designed the Snakehead Destroyer swim bait, and we're selling that now like crazy. It's just a swim bait that Brian Dolph, our old school tackle, put together for us, and it's basically the color of a mama chog. And I'll tell you, we had North Bay down here. Dan's wife, she got that fish on chatterbait, like an 8-pounder, something like that. So that swim bait that we've made now, we realize is not just utilized for snakehead fishing, but Gary's caught 13-inch white perch on them. We've got
Kevin told me he caught a nice bass on.
Yeah, Kevin Bassrack, he caught a whole bunch of bass last week. Kyle over there, official, he's got a YouTube channel. He caught 22 over in Chickamauga and said he still had plenty in the bag to use for the next trip. So. I think that everybody's trying to find their niche within this circle, and I think the best way to find the niche is for us all to niche together.
Well, and it changes all the time.
Yeah, got a question, and then we're going to close it out. Question from Eric Packard, the artist of the art that you see behind us. Have you seen snakehead eating other snakehead?
Absolutely.
He said he's actually seen them attacking fry balls.
Absolutely. And I've got
picture that I put up a while ago was a snakehead eating a snakehead.
He's talking about fry balls, though. Like
they do.
We've had them come into the store out of the nets with actually fry in their gills from them eating them.
Yeah, we had a guy last year at one of the tournaments that brought one in that, how they had the spines on the back of the gill. They were literally stuck to the spines in the gill. It had eaten so many other snakehead fry, So, so they do predate amongst themselves, and of course, if they don't have food to eat, then they're definitely going to do that.
I think that's the biggest factor is how much other bait fish are in the area. If there's plenty of other bait fish, they don't tend to eat themselves, but if there's nothing else to eat, they're going to survive.
But it's nothing for another pair close to a pair to wipe out its fry ball, because it's hungry or something like that. Yeah, there's that picture of Gary. This splatter bait here, he was using that with one of them Snakehead Destroyer swim baits. And
that's swim bait, and that's a fish. You can see there's not a lot of difference in the length, but that bird swallowed that swim bait.
I think we really nailed something there with that color that we got. You know what I mean? It seems to be working everywhere for everybody that's buying it. I know the Anglers is sold out. They need another box. I know that. So I think that everybody that is finding their value and their niche in this circle is certainly going to do something. And we want everybody to do good. And if we can help promote anybody, we have certainly been first to offer do that to anybody out there,
Well, we had a fair number of people come through the room tonight, but they were pretty quiet. My guess is because they were just busy taking notes on what the three of you guys had to say, because there was a lot of knowledge shared tonight. Anastasia and I are going to fish Blackwater tomorrow, and I know I'm pumped. I'm pumped.
Yeah, stop and get a cheesesteak.
Yeah. What time?
Man, I've had those cheesesteaks. Those things are amazing.
What time you guys getting over this way? Any idea?
What's that?
What time you guys getting over this way? Any idea?
We'll be there at 6 a.m.
6 a.m. Right. So I'll probably be back around like 11 or 12. I'll shoot you a text, see where you guys are, see how you're
going kayaks.
Yeah, we'll hook you up.
We'll be in kayaks. Yeah. But guys, thanks so much for coming on. It's really been a pleasure. I'm pumped. I'm now pumped to go snakehead fishing tomorrow. I'm jacked.
Look, you have to get. You have to get.
Oh, don't tell me.
You have to. I'm going to give Eddie's secret away and everybody's secret here right now. My cousin Ricky, now him and Roman, they just did really good in the last tournament, and I'm not saying that they used this because they asked me not to, but
they used that.
They were using this. this is what they were using. I was asked not to tell you that, but I didn't tell you that. So,
Kaz, the only problem I see with that lure is I don't see a hook.
I had to take it out because this is the same lure I've had in my hands every podcast. Where we're 69 episodes in now. This is the same lure I've had, so I had to take the hook out so I could stop sticking myself.
I'll tell you what the big seller is on this lure, and this is why you want to use it. Look.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't.
They're made out of
I can't.
the
I
same
can't
silicone
break it.
they use
I'm
on
trying,
Hollywood
man. I'm
masks
trying
and
to
stuff.
break it, you know?
Just almost.
So what you're saying is people buy them because they're fun to play with.
That too. Yeah, I mean, if you don't catch it, then he's got something to play with, right?
Yeah, you're not catching any fish. You get something to do.
Guys, thanks so much.
Something just to chew on for a little bit.
Give me a call after you get off. I'll talk to you about where you're going tomorrow.
Sure, sounds good.
Right.
Thanks so much for coming, guys. I really appreciate the knowledge and passion that you guys have. Anastasia, welcome to the team. Thanks so much for.
Yeah, welcome
This is
aboard.
so much fun. Yeah.
Let's talk.
And if you're watching and you didn't catch the whole thing, the entire pre-recorded or re-recorded, I don't know, recorded show will be on Facebook and YouTube, both on my personal page, but also on the Chesapeake Sport Fishing page and the Chesapeake Sport Fishing YouTube channel. Guys, check out Blackwater's Edge. I love tuning in. It's always a great show. Lots of positive energy. 3 great guys. And, I'm glad I got to spend the last hour with you guys.
Appreciate you having us
I
on.
tell you what, before we go, I also want to reciprocate back to you and thank you for the opportunity and thank you for having us here with you. I think that a lot of good things have been shared this evening. I hope that a lot of people got out of it what they wanted to get out of it or what they maybe needed to get out of it. I always say this: if you didn't get anything out of it, you didn't bring anything to put into it. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I really appreciate the opportunity, and we thank you very, very much for having us here tonight.
Thanks, guys. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you.
Take care.
Good night.
Just like a man.